Yeggs at Argyle get $1,700 from State Bank there. Now, what a headline to kick things off, right? It immediately grabs you. It's raw, it's striking, and it is a completely genuine newspaper headline from February of 1912. And in case you're wondering, yeggs was just an old slang term for burglars or safecrackers. This unexpected little piece of the past perfectly sets the stage for our journey today, because we aren't looking at some polished, watered-down textbook history here. We're looking at the totally unvarnished, everyday reality of a local community, captured exactly as it happened. So, welcome to today's Explainer, where we are stepping into a literal time machine. Our goal is to take what honestly might look like a pretty dry, straightforward index of North Texas newspaper headlines from the Denton County area and transform it into a really captivating journey. By piecing together these localized, alphabetized entries, we're going to watch an entire American society's evolution unfold right before our eyes. We'll go from the rugged, unpredictable frontier all the way to a thriving modern cultural hub. Here's a quick roadmap of what we'll be covering today. First, unlocking the Denton archives. Second, the perils of pioneer life. Third, the African-American experience. Fourth, agriculture to urbanization. And finally, number 5, the rise of culture. All right, let's jump right in. Section 1, Unlocking the Denton Archives. This is quite literally a catalog of the human experience. Now, this alphabetical index captures raw local history, and it grounds us right in the actual source material. I want to be clear, we're not just making up stories today or relying on broad, sweeping generalizations. We are analyzing meticulously recorded citations from real local papers, like the Denton Record-Chronicle and the Dallas Morning News. Every tragedy, every triumph, even every mundane city council meeting is listed right here. It is absolutely the purest window into the past that we have. Moving on to Section 2, Perils of Pioneer Life, or as I like to call it, the tragedies and downright oddities of the frontier. Okay, let's dive into this, because when you examine the records for early towns like Argyle and Aubrey, the ruggedness, the ever-present danger, and honestly the sheer weirdness of daily life is just striking. You can basically read these headlines like rapid-fire flash fiction. Listen to this. In 1901, a local resident was thrown by a banana peel in Argyle. In 1904, a skull cracked by mule's kick. In 1921, a truly tragic accident where a man drinks high life through mistakes and dies. And then, jumping forward a bit to 1967, a house damaged by runaway car. The incredibly fast pace of bizarre, dangerous, and tragic occurrences shows just how precarious early town life truly was. But it wasn't all just danger and tragedy. Sometimes the archives revealed the delightfully absurd. Take this surprisingly funny headline from 1961. Catalow family isn't compatible. Now, for those wondering, a catalow is actually a cross between a domestic cow and a buffalo, and apparently they were having some domestic issues. It's glimpses of tasteful humor and oddities like this that keep. Which brings us to Section 3, the African-American experience, a century of struggle and progress. This stark chronological arc lays out a reality that is definitely difficult to read, but it's vital to understand. In 1860, before the Civil War, the local paper noted an enslaved boy committed to jail. Fast forward to 1898, and systemic violence is painfully clear as whitecaps force black residents to leave Pilot Point. In 1922, we see community resilience met with tragedy. An African Methodist church built, only to have its tabernacle destroyed by fire. But then we start seeing the hard-won steps toward modern integration. In 1963, Denton drops racial bars in schools. And by 1976, we see a distinct community shift as Black history focus centers on Fred Moore Park. These physical citations, though, they track more than just early racial tension. They are an incredible testament to community building. The archives carefully document local pillars like Fred Douglass Moore, who pushed forward despite systemic violence. We see the establishment of colored Republican clubs, teachers' institutes, and Juneteenth celebrations. These records prove that even in the face of deep, deep adversity, the community relentlessly built its foundations. So the crucial takeaway here is how this century of struggle, documented headline by headline, eventually evolves into modern integration and celebration. By 2013, the archives are capturing headlines like Celebrating Black History Month, event puts focus on health. This reflects a truly monumental societal shift, all captured in the very same index that recorded the darkest days of the 19th century. Changing gears a bit here, Section 4, Agriculture to Urbanization, from plows to pavement. There is a really stark juxtaposition in these records. Look at this. In 1866, the headlines are completely dominated by agrarian concerns. We're talking the Farmers' Alliance, the fight against the boll weevil, the wheat rolling into the mills, and the top crops of cotton. But as we scan down the index to 1976, the narrative completely flips to agriculture losing ground to urbanization. And this illustrates that exact shift perfectly on paper. The archives physically transitioned from publishing these massive decennial census crop tables in the 1890s to tracking urban development, housing subdivisions, and city zoning. We are seeing the gradual but definitive disappearance of farming as a dominant way of life in North Texas. The plows are literally being replaced by pavement right there in the historical record. To truly personalize this era of urbanization, we have to look to the visionaries who built it. Take this incredible 1962 headline, "All Others Men, Woman Architect Alone at Parley." This spotlights Isabel Mount Miller. She was the only female architect registered at the Texas Society of Architects meeting down in Houston. Isabel and her husband Tom Polk-Miller represented this entirely new wave of professionals moving the town away from its rural agrarian roots. Specific architectural figures like the Millers literally shaped the modernizing town. The archives meticulously track Mount Miller architects as they completely redesigned the skyline. They designed the new Vortman store, the Denton Civic Boy Choir School, new motels out on University Drive, clinics, and civic buildings. We are literally watching the architecture of the town grow up through these newspaper clippings. And that brings us enthusiastically into the modern era. Section 5, The Rise of Culture, Arts, Jazz, and Community Flourishing. Building this narrative through the modern headlines is just so exciting. Look at how this small frontier town blossoms into a major, celebrated hub for the arts. In 1971, groundwork laid for Spring Festival. By 1982, the community is hosting the Denton Spring Fling annual fun run. In 1987, the archives highlight a Brave Combo and Reggae Force concert celebrating local musical icons. And just a year later, in 1988, the Jazz Fest draws 7,000 visitors. Talk about a boom. When you look at the physical archives tracking the Denton Arts and Jazz Festival over the decades, you are seeing the reflection of a community really coming together. It's no longer just about surviving mule kicks or runaway cars. It's about gathering to celebrate music, art, and shared humanity. The newspaper index essentially becomes a catalog of joy. Wrapping up this historical transformation, we see headlines in 2012 like, "Art at Hand. Craftsman finds niche at festival by breaking out his unique mold." The modern archive now celebrates individual creators, artisans, and musicians. It's the absolute culmination of a century of growth, perfectly capturing a flourishing modern society. By unlocking these local archives, we've taken a journey from the raw, dangerous pioneer days through decades of profound social struggle to the building of modern city skylines, and finally to a thriving cultural community. It really shows us the immense power of local history hiding right there in plain sight, which leaves me with one final provocative question for you to think about today. If you unlocked the time machine of your own local newspaper index, what would the unvarnished archives of your hometown reveal?